Hi, welcome back to Crafting a Country Life. I've got a few little tips and tricks to share with you today. I'm going to be sharing also some different watercolor sets, and if that's something that interests you and you're considering picking up some watercolors, I have a few little pointers that might help in your choice and your selection of the kinds of watercolor paints that you may or may not wish to add to your stash. First of all, I wanted to mention that I have this little pouch that I have filled with a small set of artist grade watercolor paints. These are Winsor & Newton, and it's just a basic half pan set that folds up, and it's a very small size, so it's perfect for traveling, or you can tuck this into your purse if you're planning an outing and think you may have some time to do some artwork while you're out. This is a perfect size, and it's got all the basic colors for color mixing that you might need. It also comes with a little tiny watercolor brush. This one here, it comes apart, and you just pop the handle onto the back like that, and you're ready to start painting. I thought that was a great little addition to that paint set. So that pops back in here. Once you're finished, you can just put it right back in there, pop it into your paint tray, and close it up. And you can go right back into your bag. Also within this bag, I keep a small sketchbook. It's a very tiny one. And I've gone ahead and done up a little shade card with the different colors that are in this set. And a lot of times the watercolor paint sets will come with a shade card. Here's one that goes with my metallic watercolor set. I haven't filled this one out yet, but this is folded up and put inside the case. And there's also one that goes on a white background for the same set. So it came with this white one, which I started to fill out. And again, as I say, the black one here, which I haven't gotten to. And I love these. These are nice to keep with your watercolor pan. These can tuck right into here, and you can close this up and keep everything safely inside. So anyway, this is one that since this Winsor & Newton set did not come with a shade card, I just made my own inside the cover of this tiny sketchbook. And then a couple little sketches here with watercolor paints and watercolor pencils. Playing around with some of the colors just to get a feel for how they look. Mixing a little bit. You can just doodle on the pages and get familiar with the colors that are in your set. I like to keep this closed with a rubber band so the pages don't get, all dog-eared around the edges. And then also inside the pouch, I keep a couple of paper towels, just, for blotting up and for lifting water off the painting, and also for cleaning up afterward. And I made a little small die-cut tag. And on this tag, I keep some artist tape. So it has a very low tack, so it's nice to use for framing off borders within your piece of paper. For example, if I wanted to paint this card all, like a background color, I could tape it off around the edges, and the paint would not run over, and I'd get a nice little white border around the edge after I was finished painting. So there's a lot of good uses for this. So I keep that tucked inside the bag as well. And in this little zippered pouch here on the side, I keep my brushes. There's just a few. You don't need too many. And again, depending on the size of your sketchbook, you can bring the size brushes that you feel you would need. I keep a pencil in there, a mechanical pencil with an eraser. An atomizer. This is just water in here so that you can mist your paper or get some blending going with misting. This is a water brush. So if I'm going somewhere where I may not have access to water, I've got the brush filled already with the water, and I can use my paint sets with this. A pen, a couple different sizes of brushes. The large one is more for doing a background wash, and then my 2 detail brushes. And of course, a fine line Sharpie is great for doing, you know, sketching first and then filling in. This is nice to have, it's indelible. So the brushes go right up in the top here, my mister, and so on. So I've got this nice little kit all put together that I can just grab and go when I'm ready to do some outdoor work or traveling or going on vacation or what have you. Now, I also keep by my back door, I keep this very inexpensive backpack. It's small. I picked this up at Dollar Tree, oh, I don't know, a couple of years ago, for $1. And it's a very lightweight nylon. If I'm going on a hike, sometimes I'll grab this, and inside I keep a bag if I'm collecting, you know, spring flowers or summer flowers that I want to bring home and press, or just to bring home and do some observational drawing or painting. I stick them in this bag. And in the front pouch, I keep a little pair of clippers so that I can clip, you know, little flowers or things that I find on my hikes. So that goes in there. And then, you know, depending on my activities, I'll pop this in if I'm going out and I know I'm going to be sketching, or painting, I can just pop this into the bag as well. So this little backpack stays near my back door in a dresser drawer at the bottom so that it's easy for me to just grab and go. So I love that. That's always fun. Okay, so back to the watercolors. When I use watercolors for paper crafting, I don't work too much with markers. I know a lot of people do. I tend to find that my markers dry out before I have a chance to really use them completely, because I'm dabbling in so many different kinds of media. So for me, I'm not sure it would be cost effective to buy a lot of markers. So I prefer that when I'm, you know, ready to do some coloring in, when I do some stamped images or what have you, I tend to like to use watercolor paints. And some folks aren't as crazy about them for paper crafting because they tend to make your cardstock wrinkle. So what I do generally is, depending on what the project is, I might use watercolor paper, which tends to buckle less. This is, and you can buy, there's so many different kinds of different brands and sizes and types. This is a hot press pad. Okay, it's 140 pound weight, so it's fairly thick. And, you know, I can cut this up into pieces if I wish. And being that it's hot press means that it has a much smoother surface. It doesn't have any tooth to it. So when you put your paints on here, they're really going to blend very quickly and easily without any texture from the background paper. So these are nice for certain applications. The other kind of main type of watercolor paper, and you know, you're really not going to be able to see this on the video, but when you look at these in a store, you can really feel the difference and see the texture. The cold press has a very slight texture to it, and when you paint on it, that texture tends to show through a little bit more in your painting. And I don't know that it's really going to show too much here on camera, but those are the basic 2 types of watercolor paper. So you can, you know, try one, try both, try the hot press, try the cold, and see what you think. And these are fun to use, and they get a little bit wrinkly, but not too badly. And if I'm working on plain old cardstock or even watercolor paper, once it's dried thoroughly, I will press it on the backside with an iron. And you know, just watch your temperature so that you're not burning anything. You just want to just lightly give it a little bit of a press a couple of times to flatten it out, and that way you can, you know, use it without having too much bumpiness going on in your projects. The other thing that artists do is if you're using hot press or cold press regular watercolor paper, you can use the artist tape or any other low tack tape like a painter's tape, and tape the piece of watercolor paper down to a board, and that will help to keep it less buckly, you know. So that's another option. But those methods seem to work great, and I've used my iron really, I think probably more than anything else to kind of flatten them out just a little bit if they need that. The other thing you can do is, depending on what medium you're using, you know, what type or brand of watercolor paints you're using, you might want to put a press cloth underneath and on top while you're ironing it, just in case there's any transfer of color. You don't want to get that on your ironing board or on your iron. But I've never had any trouble with that whatsoever. So, a couple of little tips there. The other thing that I wanted to share with you was these different types of watercolor paints. And, you know, you can spend as much or as little as you like. And it just depends on what you're comfortable with, what your priorities are. This is a very inexpensive set of metallic watercolor paints. I think I paid $3 for this. It's, you know, very inexpensive, and I got it in the children's crafts section of one of the craft stores. I don't remember which one it was, but if you look closely, you can see that there is not a lot of paint in here. I mean, it's a little deceiving when you look at it. You think, oh my gosh, there's so much paint, but really a very thin layer. I don't think it's even 1/8 of an inch thick. Okay, so it is what it is. It has a nice little tray that you can use for blending colors together if you want to, for adding water and so on, and, you know, diluting your colors a little bit. What I noticed with these metallic paints is that they don't have, you know, very inexpensive, they don't have a lot of metallic shimmer in them. I mean, you can see a little bit when I hold this up to the camera. See that little bit of sheen there? And they are not as highly pigmented as the artist grade watercolors. Does that really matter? No, you'll probably need to use a little bit more of the paint to get a deep, rich color if that's what you're after. But, you know, it's not really super critical. The other thing you can do is that if you use an inexpensive set and you're not getting the kind of sheen and metallic shine that you're after, you can always use an inexpensive glitter glue over it to kind of punch up the, you know, that glittery effect. And I've had this bottle of glitter glue forever. Honestly, it's still going strong. I paid $2 for this probably 10 years ago. So all I'm going to do is pop a little bit of the glitter glue. Just squeeze that out like so. And I'm going to use one of my inexpensive throwaway brushes. And I'm going to take the glitter glue and just kind of brush it over the surface of that pearlized metallic watercolor. And this will punch up your glowy look a little bit more. Okay. And of course, you know, it doesn't show as well on the camera naturally, but that's one way around it. If you have inexpensive watercolors, you can always doctor them up with other layers of mixed media on top of them. On the flip side, let me just show you this set of metallic watercolors that I purchased not too long ago. This set was probably about $20 or so. And it does have the artist grade paints in it. And I love this set. I was playing around with the shade card, and hopefully you can see that there is definitely a much higher kind of sheen, metallic sheen to these. They're absolutely beautiful. They dry very shiny, and they're highly pigmented. I mean, I, you know, literally only put my brush into these colors a tiny little bit, and I had a very deep, rich result. And when I filled out my shade card, I tried to keep the colors very intense on the left side, and then kind of added more water into my brush on the other side, so that when I open my shade card, I can really see the transition from dark to light and what my options will be for that color. So this is a fun way to fill out a shade card. Just add a little bit more water towards the one side and a little more paint towards the other side. And I'm going to show you exactly how I approach doing that. So I've got my paint set here. Just grab a brush. And so I've got just this kind of small brush here. And I'm going to go ahead and wet the brush. And the next color on my shade card here is called, what is it? Read that. Multicolor Turquoise, right here. And that one is, I've got to look on my list so I can see where it is exactly. Multicolor Turquoise. So that one is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the fifth one from the right on the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's this hue right here. So Multicolor Turquoise and a metallic paint set. So I'm going to go ahead and wet my brush and wet the paint. And incidentally, if you're planning on using a lot of these colors in one sitting, it's probably a good idea to go ahead first before you start painting and just put a drop or two of water on each color. As you can see me doing here, just a drop. Rinse your brush in between so you don't muddy up the different pans, you know. And allow that to kind of soak in for a few minutes, and your paints will come onto your brush much more easily once they've been kind of what I call primed. We're just priming these pans with a little water to moisten them and soften them up quicker. So that's always a good idea. Anyway, back to our Multicolor Turquoise. So I've got some paint on my brush. I don't need much. Okay, and then I'm going to come in here, hold this close to the camera as I can so that you can see. I'm going to go ahead, whoops, and fill in the shade card with more pigmented paint on the left side. I'm going to stop right about there, and then I'm going to add water to my brush, kind of rinse it out. I'm cleaning my brush first, so it just has water on the brush now, and I'm going to go on to the right side and hit it with water. And I'm going to work my way over to where the blue is and just kind of blend the water and the paint together. And it's going to kind of automatically wash into the other watery areas, okay? So now I can really see my palest Multicolor Turquoise here, and then my more intensely colored turquoise on the left. And you can kind of play around, blend that in as much as you desire, right? Okay, and then just maybe a little tad more over here. I want to just punch this up a little because, you know, I'll be using this to refer to. So I want to really see that range of light to dark that I can get with that color. Aren't those pretty? They're very, very shiny. I'm really happy with this particular set, and I did mention this one in a previous video. I think it might have been a couple of days ago, but this one is called Magic Fly brand, 24 metallic watercolor paints in the box. And I do like it because it has a really nice metal box and a mixing tray flip out right here. Okay, so nice set. I'm happy with that. And you know, there are many, many different ones on the market. So try one, see what you think. It even has a little metal loop on the bottom that if you're, you know, outdoors working, you can hang on to that tray through the loop underneath. I don't know if you can see it right here. And that will give you a little bit of extra security so that you don't drop it. So that is that one. So we have, you know, a $3 set. We have a $20 and change set here. Another set that I've recently gotten is this one here by Prima. And I've seen these in some of the craft stores. They price a little bit higher, but if you have a coupon, you can do pretty well. It's a Prima product, and it comes in different sets. Like you can get the Woodland set. This one is the Vintage Pastel set. There's a Tropical set. This one has just some soft antiqued looking pastel colors. I love this. And I did use some of these colors to paint the little bird in. And you can see that really there's very little. This is cardstock. It's a heavyweight, 110 pound, but I'm really not getting any buckling there at all. So I just did a little chickadee using those colors. And I thought he came out really cute. So first you want to stamp it with a solvent-based stamp, ink stamper, you know, like Stays On or one of those types. So that when you hit it with water, with the watercolor paint, it doesn't bleed, right? You don't want to use like a dye ink. That would not work so well. So there's the little bird there. And this set, I think I might have paid around 20 for this one if I'm remembering right. But this is handy. You know, I don't have to sit and mix these pale tones from darker colors. So this is just kind of a shortcut to have these colors already pale, and not have to worry about mixing and trying to, you know, add more water to make a darker color lighter. You know, they're already done for you. So this would be like an extra set. I wouldn't call this a basic kind of a set. You want to start with something that has your basic colors in it. I can show you another set other than the Winsor Newton. This, you know, if you're interested in trying this and maybe not spending a lot of money just to get started, this is a great way to go. This is the Prang semi-moist oval watercolor pan. And I order these every year. I'm an art teacher. I teach elementary art. So I order these. They're my favorite brand of watercolor paints for my students. The colors are quite intense. I just think that they're, for the price, the quality is very good. And I use these at home as well. These make some beautiful, intense colors, and for the price, you can't go wrong. You've got your basics here, you know, your primary and secondary colors, and you've got black and brown as well. And if you look at these, now granted, I will need to use just a little bit more of an inexpensive pigment than of an expensive pigment, like an artist grade. You won't have to use as much. So yes, you are paying more, but you're getting a very high quality, intensely pigmented product when you buy, you know, a name brand watercolor paint or really any type of paint. But for this price, you can't go wrong. This is a great way to start. So what I'm going to do is just show you an example of this type of paint. Let me get a brush that's just a little bit bigger. All right, we'll try this one here. It's just a Princeton, just a basic, not an expensive brush. It has a, you know, it's a synthetic bristle. So I'm going to go ahead and just wet my paper a little bit right here. And I'm going to now take the color from the Prang Set. This is the blue. I'm just going to kind of rub that in there. And again, you can prime these as well by just adding a drop of water to each one if you're planning on using all the colors in your tray at a sitting. So I didn't rub the brush too long into that blue, and let's see what we get. Okay, here's my water. And here's the pigment. And you can see that kind of blending right into the patch of water that I put on there. Okay. All right, so that's the blue from the Prang Set. Now let's take a look at the Winsor Newton blue. Where did I put my backpack? Oh my goodness. Where did you put that, Mrs. Marshall? Oh, here it is, on the other side of my table. Well, I don't know if you're like me. I know that when it takes me a minute to find something that I just set down a few minutes ago, it's probably time to clear off my work table and get things more organized, which I find I have to do on a regular basis in this room. It's chock full of materials, and there's a little bit of visual clutter on my table right now. I've been working in here quite a bit, so I'm going to just turn up my camera so that you can see my table. I digress a little bit here, but Okay, so here's the surface of the table, right? Chock-a-block. All my paper crafting projects right now that I am trying to clear off. I need to get those out of the way. And a few products that I purchased recently at the craft shop. Here's the other end of the table. Oh yeah, there's the backpack. And then of course, you know, my brushes, my tools, scissors, knives, all kinds of rulers. Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff here I need to kind of clear the table off. Okay, let's get back to what we were talking about. Tighten this up just a little. Okay, hopefully my camera won't shake too much. Okay, so these are the Winsor Newtons again. All I'm going to do, I don't need that brush. Let's take some water. We're going to go ahead and wet the paper here below the prang. I'm going to put another patch of water with my brush just to get the paint flowing well. I like to wet the paper first and give it kind of a wash effect. And then get that same brush and let's see, I'll try this. I think this is the ultramarine. Now I haven't rubbed the brush in there but more than a second or two, a couple of seconds. This is the artist grade paint. It's just a tad more intense, but you know, honestly, it's really not crucial, right? Point being, you don't have to spend a lot of money to get started on this. They're both beautiful, and the Prang watercolors are really a winner. You can probably pick these up for $5, maybe less, depending on where you purchase it from. And you can mix all of your own colors because it has the primary and secondary set there. And you can darken with just a touch of black. The black is very strong, so you want to go light on the black when you add it to any other color to darken it down. And to lighten any color, of course, you know, you just add more water, and that will give you a more transparent and very light, pale pastel look. So really, I would definitely recommend this. I like taking this on vacation with me too. It's just a real easy and inexpensive, nice quality product for the price. Okay, so, and then there's my Winsor Newton, which I do love. And these basic colors in the Winsor Newton set are really, really nice. And you can just mix a ton of different colors with them. So I hope that this has been informative for you if watercolors are new to you, or if you're considering maybe dabbling in it a little bit with your paper crafting. And again, you know, try some watercolor paper. You can pick those up on sale at any craft store. You can start with just a small pad if you like. Try some hot press, try some cold press, see what you like, and have fun playing with watercolors. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and I hope to see you back again really soon. Take care and have a great afternoon. Bye for now.